Very often on my videos I do not show the process of me working because it's problematic for me to do video of every little step. However, I'm excited about this bathroom renovation, shower build specifically, because my customer has provided me with a sketch. It was actually a picture that was taken, and then the sketching was superimposed on the picture to let me know there'll be no bench, and there's going to be the shower fixture that was here already, going to go up there. There's no rainforest head. There will be a niche. There will be a secondary shower fixture with a slider bar along here. And this tile, 24 by 12 porcelain tile that looks like marble, will go vertically across the top, bottom, and across the top. And then a brick type marble tile will be inset. And then there's going to be, on here you can't see it, but it's going to be like a marble tile that is like an octagon. And I'm very excited about this. Why? Because I am rarely, if ever, given a picture of exactly what I'm supposed to do. And this makes my job so easy that it's foolproof for me. So here we go. This is what I have done so far. I've taken out, which I'm not going to bore you with all the demo. So what we had here was a cast iron tub originally that was here, and then this area here where the line is, if you can see it, was a bench. And the cast iron tub and the bench were kind of inclusive of the shower tub area. And now all that stuff is gone. You can see where the tub was at. So my job is now to make it, the whole thing, look like that. And there'll be some other things. A new toilet will be put in. This is the old lathe and wire and stuff like that I hate so much. Old-fashioned way to set tile. Anyway, the vanity is gone. It's sideways here, and I'm going to get rid of that. I've already capped off the lines. There's going to be a double vanity here, so I have to make that pipe into two that are equally across here, and I have to do two sets of lines, one over there, one over there. And unfortunately they come up through the floor. I can't get them up through the bottom plate here because there is something precluding me from doing that. So that is relatively easy. There's going to be a couple of sconces here instead of the light fixture that currently is here, and the new vanity, and I think it's going to have a marble top, a freestanding vanity, meaning that it has legs on it. That will look nice, and eventually a new toilet. There's the old vanity top that I'm going to get rid of. But the point is, and I'm excited, I'm really excited about this shower build. It's going to look really sharp. Most of what I do is very redundant, basically same type of tile and designs and stuff like that. And this is something different, and this is probably going to take me about 12 days. I'm going to go out on a limb and say to you that I'm going to do a video a day for the next 10 or 12 days showing the process, little snippets of the process, not the whole thing, but 20-minute, 30-minute of me working and doing some of this stuff. So I'll see how on point I can be with that. The videos that I will be posting will not be edited. I won't have time on a nightly basis to edit those videos, so it's kind of going to be raw type of stuff. I'll edit out. So this is a material we're looking at. I think she wants to go with a herringbone with this 12 by 24 that's going to be on the floor, specifically in the bathroom floor all the way throughout. This is also going to be the vertical tile, as you saw in that picture. The vertical will go one row above the shower pan right here, and then there'll be all of this marble tile that's staggered in half, so many rows up. We haven't done the math yet. I'm guessing probably about 10 rows, 8 to 10 rows up. Before we get to the top, there'll be another vertical going across, just as I showed you in the picture. Here's a hexagon tile, marble tile for the shower floor. These are the pencil pieces. Good sized pencil pieces too. When you guys get pencil, make sure they're these inch across. They're a lot easier to set than the real skinny ones. Anyway, this is going to trim out the shower, I think on the left and the right, or she might do some chair rail. I forgot, but anyway, this is going to be setting right there before the vertical, and this is all the way around, and then this is also going to sit on the top before the top vertical all the way around. That's going to look, this whole thing is going to look sharp. That's why I'm so excited. And that she has all the material, that everything is here. There's no ambiguity whatsoever about what I'm doing. Here is a slider, a mowing. So the slider comes with the hose, the attachment, and the handle, and little thing coming out of the wall, which eventually I will get to with the elbow. So it's all here. The box is the box has all the parts in it for that slider, and then I have the valve. I have to get a secondary valve for the other side. That's going to go on the right side. If you remember the picture, all of this will go on the right side, and the left side is just going to be a normal shower valve and a shower head. And then we got a couple of sinks, faucets for the sinks, which are going to be sharp looking, Delta, so those will look sharp on the new counter, the new vanity rather. It's all here. It's beautiful. This is, and then a new fan, a high CFM fan. So this is the ideal situation. And if you refer back to how I give an estimates, that's one of the things I forgot on that video to tell you about. When I give an estimate, I like to see everything I'm working with. I like to imagine it put up in my own mind. This customer did one better. She did the drawing. So the drawing makes it unambiguous to what I'm doing. Anyway, I'm going to run back upstairs and get started, show you a little bit of that process, not a lot of it, and it's an ongoing effort to get this done in the next 12 days. So I always try and knock out my plumbing right off the bat, and I'm going to do a little, there's probably 2,000 or 3,000 videos online on how to pull a toilet out, so I'm probably not showing you anything new, but this is usually the last thing I take out, and once this is gone I can get rid of the flooring. So I take it out from there. Because it's a braided line, I'm going to save it. I'm going to leave it there. I don't take it out from here, I take it out from here, and then I usually just kind of put a little knot in it or something so that water doesn't leak out, but I want to save that line. If you have a gray line or a white plastic line, water's coming out anyway. It's just excess water. It's not coming out of the tank. Give it a flush. That's going to eliminate 90% of your water. There's still going to be a little water at the end. You can plunge that excess water down that's in the toilet, or if you want to, you can get a sponge and soak it up and get it out of there. There's a P-trap, as you can see. In every toilet there's a P-trap that runs like that. So there's excess water in that trap as well as in the bowl itself. So that's the next step of getting that off. Then you take off these little caps, which are usually not in there pretty tight anyway. This has plastic nuts on it, which I cannot stand. I mean, I understand companies trying to save some money on metal, but come on. Plastic nuts. So there's another one on the other side. It's free and clear now. The only two things anchoring it to the floor is the two nuts. That one, then I'm going to take off the other one, and the supply line. Sometimes people run a bead of caulking right at the base, and then you'll have to get a chisel or a razor knife or something and get out that bead of caulking. But even if you had caulking down there and you pulled it up, all the tile would come up with it. It usually sticks to that. And now that it's free and clear and the water has gone out of the bowl, I can simply lift it up, move it aside. Another thing too, I don't take off the tank. A lot of people So after I lift the toilet over here, I never take off the tank, especially if I'm going to be replacing the toilet later on. The same toilet, I don't take off the tank. I want that seal to be intact. All this is wax. I have a little blade that I use for that, and all this wax comes off, and that's all there is to taking off a toilet. So I'm not going to bore you to death with all this stuff, but I'll show you the process, because every little step of this matters if you're going to be doing your own bathroom renovation anyway. If you're not, if you're having somebody else do it, then this is kind of useless information, I suppose, for you, but I'm showing it anyway. So once all this wax comes off, you're free and clear to take off the rest of the floor. And yeah, you probably want to wear gloves. I'm sure there's people out there saying, you should be wearing gloves. Yes, I should be. But during the process of doing a bathroom renovation, I'm doing a lot of work that gloves would be a very small part. And that goes in the trash. So as I said previously, I'm making this current single vanity into a double vanity. There'll be a sink over here and a sink over here. And I've got to do my measurement. I think the vanity's going up to this point over here. I'm not absolutely sure. I'll have to measure out my vanity. It's in the box upstairs here. I've already taken it out of the box and the measurement will be done. Regardless, I'm going to have to cut into this sheetrock to make this happen. What I see here is either the drain or a stack in a drain. And what I mean by a stack is that this will go all the way up into the attic and then up through the roof. That is for your positive water plus your gases go out there. And sometimes the stack and the drain are tied into each other. So what I anticipate seeing is I see an elbow here and then I see a Y, and part of that goes into the drain part, which goes down and out the house, and then the other part of that Y goes up and into the stack. And if that should be the case, then I have to cut out that little section and put a four-way in there so that I'll have a drain coming from this direction, a drain coming from this direction, and then tie back into the stack. That's what I anticipate. All right, the next process is opening this up. I have a lot of lines drawn here, and I'll tell you why. The vanity, I've already done the math. There's a cutout, there's a square cutout on both sides of the vanity. I didn't do a full line on this side. But basically, I didn't do a full line because I know this is going to disappear anyway. But anyway, this is a center. So I've already measured from the side here, the side of the vanity out to here is 14 inches. Sorry. Yeah, I was right. 14 inches. I put a circle on that side to show where the drain ultimately is going to be. And the drain is ultimately going to be there, except that, hello, the stack runs almost parallel to it. So, not sure that's going to happen. Worst case scenario, we have to move it off to the left here a little bit, and I'll have to cut open a little bit more of that board that's in the back of the vanity. But once I get this open, I will know what I'm supposed to know. So I did the math on what my backer board and my tile thickness is going to be before I measured up. This is the bottom of that square that's opened up on the back of the vanity, and that's where I drew my line, top and bottom, 9.5 inches by 8 inches on both sides. And that's why I marked on top and bottom and the sides, because that part of the sheetrock is not coming out, so I won't lose my measurement. So I'm going to get started cutting this open and figuring out how the best way that I'm going to go about this. Sometimes there's not a best way. own one of these, if you do not own one of these, I highly recommend that you buy one. It doesn't have to be Dremel brand, it can be any brand, but this thing is a lifesaver as far as cutting in the sheetrock, cutting into, you know, built up caulking and all kinds of different applications. It has different blades on it, will do different things. This is probably one of my favorite tools that I have of all my tools. So it beats the heck out of doing things the old-fashioned way, which I used to use keyhole saw to open that up, but this is exactly what I anticipated was going on. This is a drain going down. This is the stack. Stack is going all the way up and through the roof, and we have one line going this way, which means that I have to replicate this sort of kind of, except that I could either put it, so there's my vanity line right there, so I could either put something like that, except that it would have an extra drain on this side, 4 opening, or 2x4 is in the way. Or I could put the drain slightly over here because I still have the parameter of my opening that I can play with, except that the 2x4 is in the way. So that becomes a bit of a conundrum. I'll probably do it this way. It'll be the easiest thing. But I'll have to cut down into here so that I can cut out this section and rework this to where it's palatable. That has to be stretched out to that direction over there. In fact, this is perfect because I got a 2x4 right next to it, but the pipe needs to be right there eventually, and then this one will be offset. Is it going to go that way? That's where you have to make up your mind on stuff. I'll have to look at the vanity again and see how much room I have play to go over to here, but more than likely I'll do it off there. Anyway, I'm going to get started on that. That's a 2-inch pipe going up, by the way, 1.5 inches going that direction, ABS, but I'm going to transition to PVC. Alright, it's a few minutes later and I have made my configuration, as I told you already, and this doesn't quite hit there, so eventually I'll have to cut that off and I'll have to put another piece of 2-inch pipe in there with a connector. This one has a stop. They have connectors with no stop. That means I can slide it up the pipe, put the pipe in there really tight, get it down inside, and then slide this down and glue it in. That's how I'll deal with that. This is already glued in. I did transition from the 2-inch to 1.5 inches, and I don't have another connector to do that on the other side because there's no Home Depot close to me, so I'll do that tomorrow. But I've already got it set up. It's probably about 4 to 5 inches off center of where my line is. As I said, I'll have to, that board in the back goes from about here to here, so I'll have to cut over about 3 inches or so, maybe 4, about 4 or 5 inches over in that board to make this one work, and then my P-trap will be offset a little bit. That's not a big deal. This one worked out perfect because I had enough playroom, drilled a hole in that 2x4 and made that happen with a sweeping 90 as opposed to a sharp 90. This one has a sharp 90 on it. So anyway, basically that's done. I'm going to leave that alone for right now because I don't have the coupling to make that happen. So I'm going to work on this part of the plumbing next, or maybe the shower. There's so much going on here. Those 2 pipes will get teed off so that I'll have 2 sets of supply lines left and right up through the floor. As I told you, I can't go back behind there. It's impossible to do, so I'm stuck doing it through the floor. Toilet is moved away. Now where I'll build my curb at, I have to be 16 inches off center of this toilet flange. So I'll measure out 16 inches and maybe about another 1/2 inch, another inch or so, maybe 17 inches, and I'll put my curb right here to get a larger shower out of what was the bathtub. You see the line there. And so by code, that flange is supposed to be, or your toilet is supposed to set 32. 32 is the final measurement, 16 inches off this side, 16 inches off that side. So 32 from center, or sorry, from left to right. And we have enough room here where that line is the end of the vanity, and I have a good part of probably 20 inches going on there. So I guess I'll get started on the drain over here. This drain will get transitioned also from the 1.5 inch it was to 2 inch and brought center once I know where my curb is. Then I will put it center. Alright, a quick little update to what's going on. I have centered up where my drain is going to be. It's exactly centered from here to here and from left to right. And the reason I know that is because I measured out, as I was talking about before, from the toilet, 16 inches would be the minimum. I went out 18 inches, about 18.5, somewhere around there. Found my line here, which is 3 foot exactly left to right. So a 3 foot shower instead of, it was just shy of that. I extended it out maybe another 5 inches, I'm guessing. About another 5 inches out. So I cut out that sheetrock beyond where the line is on both sides, because eventually my wallboard is going to marry up to that. And there's so much stuff to know in here. I can't possibly cover everything. I'll put a 2x4 back there, not this one, but I'll put a 2x4 back there and I'll anchor it down. That will be the anchoring point when the new wallboard comes together, so it has something to screw to on both sides. I've been asked that before during a job, so that's how I make that happen. What else? There's so much going on here. So this line is that 3 foot line, and my curb pieces are right here, 3 of them cut to size, and it's going to go right along here. 3.5 inches is where that line is. Unfortunately, I have no bite on the inside of this pipe. This floor joist is smack dab in the way of a bite for me to get this transition to a 2-inch pipe. So I had to cut out part of the floor and come over here where I have some more clean pipe at. So now I can go ahead and make the transition to 2-inch, bring it over, and I've got my center line here. So eventually I'll cut off a trough, if you will, about 5-6 inches of this board all the way to the center, and then I'll put my P-trap, my new 2-inch P-trap in, and I'll put my drain here eventually. Then I'll go backward and start patching in all this area that I've torn up, and I will put my curb down. Probably by the end of the day all this stuff will happen. Yeah, so just very, very busy. There's a lot of prep. Is probably the most time consuming part of this job. The tiling process is usually 2, 3, 4 days max. Ran into another conundrum. This is where the niche is going to go, and as you see, there's a lot of different stuff going on here. We end up having another stack going on, and so that stack has to be moved into that stud and over with a 90 and brought up higher than where my niche is, and then brought over again and tied back in. So, you know, just kind of turn it around that way. But to get a center niche, for whatever reason, they put a 2x6 right here. And I don't know why it's there. I don't want to have to cut it out because more than likely the sheetrock is attached to it on the other side. So I'm kind of relegated from here, which is about 28 inches. And then my 28-inch mark over here only gives me about 20 inches between. I usually try and make them about 30 inches. So I think it's going to be a shorter niche than what she had wanted. And these are all boogered up from where the old the niche was at with this fake marble wall that was on here. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Hadn't even touched the plumbing, the supply yet. While I have this open, crud. So take back what I said. This trough here will go completely across the floor because I have to make that happen to get those supply lines hot and cold over here for this valve. So yeah, it won't be done by the end of the day. But let me get back to work and shut up.
This is the whole tub configuration with the P-trap included, and I'm going to cut it about midway here. still left in the P-trap. This bathroom doesn't get used much, but instead of taping this, I should have been holding it, and I'm still not going to get it loose. I got to cut a little bit more. This box is too small. Okay, got another piece off of it, and the whole thing came out as one unit, and I will throw that away. I won't be using it. My transition will happen right here. I'll put a reducer. You could call it an increaser or reducer. Basically, just like that. So that's going to go to 2 inch right there. Now, a couple of ways to skin the cat. That hole's already pre-cut for 1.5 inches. So what I could do, and what I might still end up doing, is doing my reducer down here. What I'll probably do and put a 90 on that. Once I do the 90, then I can increase it to 2 inch after that point, because there's my line that's still there, and that's I'll just cut that down a little bit. So, and that's what I decided on. If you notice, because as I said, sometimes you can change the game plan midstream. You know, plumbing is relatively easy. There are different parts to make things happen. So I just changed the game plan as I was talking to you on camera, and I just changed it to 1.5 inches. Did a sweeping 90, which should be used on your shower, and then did the transition right there, and there's my line for my drain to be center, which I'm right on it. So next part is to cut out this trough I was telling you about, get this P-trap centered up and get that set. And then tomorrow I'll start doing the supply lines hot and cold on both sides. Hopefully I'll have my valves tomorrow too. I've already taken care of this for the niche area. As I told you before, all I did is bring it over, down, and back around again. It is a stack, so it's just air that's going out of there, which means that I don't have to use primer. If you notice, it's just straight glue on here. Primer is not necessary to piece these together, and that gives me my room for my niche. This will be the end of the niche right there on that line, and that line and that line. This will be the end. So from there to there is about 30 inches more or less. I go 17 up, which is why my next line is there, and that was put there. 17 up. When everything is said and done, it gives me a 12 from top to bottom, a 12-inch niche. 12.5, roughly thereabout. So 17 inches. This raggedy piece of double 2x4 will be cut out to facilitate my opening, and then I'll do a cross beam across the top. And that's it. Got a couple more hours I can still be working, so I'm gonna knock this out. Alright, I am ready to wrap things up for today. I cleaned up the whole area. I don't know, I don't like a mess when I come in the next day, so everything has to be swept up and clean. That's just me. So went ahead and framed in the niche, put a couple of supporting 2x4s up there just for good measure because of those scabbed in cut pieces that were there. I didn't feel good about that. Anyway, so it is set, it is finite, and it is almost exactly left to right, that distance and that distance. So I like the symmetry. Usually try and get them longer, but as I said, I can't because of the 2x6 that's in the way. I basically put in my plumbing. This is glued in already, transitional piece. And right about there, in fact right there, where my shower drain is going to be with the P-trap, not glued yet, and I have about a 28 30-inch span of 2-inch pipe that I'm going to bring in tomorrow, so I can go ahead and have that drain put in. Now, talk about different ways of doing things. As I talked about earlier, I know that these 1/2-inch lines are going to feed this valve that eventually is going to go up there, but then I was going to cut into those lines, put some T's on them, and run those lines all the way over on that side. As luck would have it, I have 3/4-inch pipe here where you can see those T's are at. The 3/4 to 1/2-inch T that's on there, same as over, where did it go? It's back there somewhere. So more than likely that's what I'll end up doing there. I'll just cut into the 3/4 pipe so that I can get good pressure on both sides. The 3/4 hot and cold will both get T's, and then I'll feed those lines over here. I've already pre-drilled holes for this valve because I already know that it's going to be here. Why? Because I already know the difference between this and my curb, and exactly middle is where I wrote valve. So the valve will set right next to this stud right here, and it will have the left and right side going in. I actually put 2 holes on the hot side because I thought this one was a little bit too close by the time I bring it over to the valve, so I put a secondary one in there. And then this one I'll just bring up and cut through the 2x4 to make that happen. And hopefully that valve will be set, that valve will be set, and those water lines will be set in place tomorrow, so that plumbing is all gone. And I'll go ahead and rectify that. And then I'll jump on this. This will take up most of the day doing all this plumbing work. Once that's done, I can get started on my pan. Right now I have my 2x4s pre-cut, which I did earlier today. I also want to reiterate something on 2x4s that are going between here, especially on a curb. I make them just a tad bit longer than they need to be. I put them in very tight. That's that line. That's that line. So now my measurement should be exactly the same on both left and right. I have 32.5. Oops. 32.5 right there, exactly. And I have 32 5/8. So that means that has to move over 1/8. So if I'm doing 32.5 here, I'll get it over there eventually. So I'm going to nail that down. That'll be anchored, and then I'll move over there, get my 32.5, and then I'll start shooting nails. Oh, by the way, I use these nails in here, 2.5-inch nails that my nail gun sets in there very well. They're not going anywhere. Some people prefer screws, but I do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I think I do about 12 on my bottom stud when I do a curb, and then maybe about 10 on each consecutive one. So I'm not worried about it coming out. Also, I toenail my bottom stud so that it becomes married with this plate here. I feel better about toenailing so that it's all kind of one cohesive unit. And I'm going to check my measurement again. That is 32 5/8. So that happens sometimes. Wood moves around when you're nailing. I'm moving around. I'm trying to tape this all at the same time, which is not ideal. But 32 5/8, just a tad. 32 5/8. That's where my line's at. There it is. So I'm going to go ahead and nail that down. Same thing, toenail it down. Then go to about center, and oops, out of nails. Well, I'll stop showing then. As you can tell, I've already done a couple of them. I'm on my last one, and you see, again, it's a very, very tight, snug fit, which is what I want. By the way, a little trick that my grandfather taught me years and years and years and years ago. The grain of your boards should always face away from what you're doing. If it were on the wall, for example, you know, the grain would be like this on the wall, not the other way. Because if any warpage ever happens with the board, it's going to warp in rather than out. Not that this matters. I don't anticipate that ever happening. Just thought I'd throw it out there. Like to feel the evenness of all my boards, especially on the last one. Make sure they're all lined up. That's about right. And I have the same habit of toenailing a couple of nails on the top one as well. So I'll do that. A couple. And the curb is complete. Right where that discrepancy is at the end of the curb, I'm going to put at least a 2x4, maybe a secondary one if I can, and the secondary one will probably be in this direction, so I'll miss that wire that's coming out of the ground, or I'll notch out my 2x4 so that I miss this wire totally. But I want something for my board and my shower pan liner to rest up against. So this space will be taken up eventually, as will this space over here. I'll put a 2x4 right there on that side and right on that side, eventually, running all the way up. And that is day 2. I'm calling this day 2 because the first day, actually day and a half, was all the tear out of the material. God, that stuff weighed probably 1,500, 1,800 pounds. So that took a while. All the flooring and the fake marble shower and all that stuff. Day 2 meaning really day 1 of the build back process. Day 1 meaning that this is everything that you saw on this video I accomplished in the one day. All of this, all of that, curb, ditch, the preliminary for the plumbing. It never seems like enough. You know, I get done with the day, spend 7, 8, 9 hours sometimes. Sometimes a little less, it depends on what I'm doing, but it never seems like it's enough. It always feels like, man, I wish I could have got more done. But I will be back tomorrow, and I anticipate, as I said, getting all the plumbing done. If I get done with all the plumbing in time, then I will patch in the floor of the shower and hopefully get the shower pan set in, the liner set in, and it poured. Because once that's poured, then I can move on to putting Durarock on the floor and doing a whole bunch of other things while it's drying. I want this to dry at least minimum of 3 days with a fan on it 24/7. If I get more time out of it, then that's great. As I said, there's a lot of stuff going on here, so I will definitely be busy, and I will be back tomorrow to show you the rest, well, not the rest, but day 2.